Oh, how I love when I slow down. Forget myself when I go round. I lost my feet, said I love you. Too bad that dreams don't just come true. Staying put, not making sense. Yeah, I've been living in the previous tense. Why won't you help me move on? I can't look, can't make amends. Yeah, it's so sad we're not even friends, but we've been going so long. Give me back the conversation. I'm sorry I lost my patience. No, I just can't catch a break. Yeah, I'm always late, yeah, still always waiting. Oh, how I love when I slow down. Forget myself when I go round. I lost my feet, said I love you. Too bad that dreams don't just come true. Kicking it in my banana pants, having fun hitting that bananagram. I love just wasting my time. Wasting my time, oh my gosh. Hating it, checking my Instagram. No, it won't turn me to a better man. I know it's killing my vibe. Who am I to you? My words just seem inefficient. I'm scared of the recognition. I'm sorry, it's you I'm missing. To tell the truth, I can't make it different. Oh, how I love when I slow down. Forget myself when I go round. I lost my feet, said I love you. Too bad that dreams don't just come true. Suddenly I can see the world as it's supposed to be, and the pain inside my heart has left my chest. Honestly, we can be anyone we wanna be, and the world can put our worry down to rest. But I can't find another broken light to brighten my life up. No, I can't hold another broken soul to know it's over. No, it's not over.
You are so cool.
Yeah. Oh, how I love when I slow down. Forget myself when I go round. I lost my feet, said I love you. Too bad that dreams don't just come true. Yeah. Oh, how I love when I slow down. Kicking my banana pants. Forget myself when I go round. Who am I to you? I lost my feet, said I love you. Maybe I do. Too bad that dreams don't just come true.
Hey everybody, is Kid's the one with the high top, right? Okay, I'm good with that. Okay, good. Hey everybody, thanks for joining us. on this mistitled episode that I'm fixing right now. But all the same, thanks for joining us. We love to have you here. Hope you're having a great, worry-free week. Hopefully you had just a stress-free one more week of 2020 with just no stress or anything to worry about. That's our hope for you, America. And I'd like to thank Kroger M. Thistlethwaite the 7th for my purified drinking water that I drink on this and most episodes of Muddy Waters of Freedom. Bulavanaka. Oh, damn it. I keep forgetting my water mug. Yeah, or it's, yeah, like the Kiss Me, I'm a Chris Reynolds fan. And I, as always, have done things even bigger than Matt in that I have affixed my laminated Chris face. Get a good look at that. Laminated Chris face for my Chris Reynolds attorney at law. I keep saying I'm going to design a shirt that has Chris's face with the Chris Reynolds and put it on the Muddy Waters store. And yet, it's been another week and not so much. Not so much, guys. That you're looking at stuff. No, you're showing people you're studious. You're looking at things. Things matter to you. So when are they supposed? Oh, because yeah, the panhandle part is yeah. Wait, so that's in which state? And what was? I'm sorry, I got distracted. What was the breakdown? 1%. Right. We don't know what's gonna happen, folks. We're not going to be talking about that. Not on this episode or any other. We will on my episode of My Fellow Americans tomorrow. I'm going to be having an expert to talk about the thing that... That's fair. No, that's fair. The thing about that thing. Now, guys, this episode of Muddy Waters of Freedom, of course, is brought to you by the Libertarian Party Dad Bod Caucus, featuring the sexiest libertarian men that you're legally allowed to hang from your fridge. Just go to libertariandadbod.com, $12, including shipping. What an amazing gift to socially distance yourself from others and to keep them away from you than to have pictures like this hanging from your home. This episode is also brought to you by the Libertarian Party Waffle House Caucus, the fastest growing caucus ever in history, and a new big name sponsor this episode is brought to you by Purell, that reminds you to put some respect on their name, especially since you can't find any right now. Purell. It's a big sponsor we got there, Matt. I just hope someone gets this joke. Oh, I think I did post that on the page. Well, I hope... Well, good. I'm glad you got it. If no, listen, this show is about amusing us first and foremost. And then after that, if other people are also amused, I'm fine with that. I'm not against other people being amused by our antics, but that is the primary concern. So I'm glad you liked it. So Matt has already begun giving some of our not so Super Tuesday updates about the election going on. That's fine. Right. Wait a second. No one can hear you. Wait a damn second. I guarantee you everyone's saying, yep, can we, oh, God. Yeah, hold on a second. I'm not sure what the hell happened here. Oh, goody. Guys, hold on 1 second, please. We are having one of our fun situations here. Here, say something now.
Okay, well, I'm here. So.
Oh, good. Now everyone can hear you.
Oh, well, good.
So, Matt, why don't you update us on Super Tuesday again?
Okay. So,
not so Super Tuesday.
On Super Tuesday, again, with 2% reporting in Illinois, it's 56 for Bernie, 37. Oh, no, sorry. That was a change. That was a big change. Now it's 56 for Biden, 37 for Bernie, 3 for Warren. So that 1% seemed to make all the difference in the Biden campaign. Now, interesting enough, Bernie's been touting the fact that he has been doing really well in Latino communities, and that does not appear to be carrying over here in Florida.
He's imagine
moving
that.
Big in all of the heavily Latino counties. In Miami-Dade, 16 Biden's up 28%. In Osceola, Biden's up 21. In Hendry, he's up 46, and in Hardy, Biden's up 45. So it does not appear as though he is speaking to the Cubans that much.
Joe Biden, guys, has been telling us for 32 years, 34, 33. He started in 87. That was the first time he started running for president of the United States of America, was in 1987. The first time he ever won a primary was earlier this month in South Carolina. That is the first time that he has ever won a primary in ever. And I mean, you want to talk about some determination. Just sheer audacity to spend 32 years saying, I'm going to be at least nominated to be president, and to not win a single damn primary. And then to even go into this one and not even come in the top 3 or 4 in the first couple states, and to be slowly developing Alzheimer's. And then, but you've got the last laugh, because you may end up being completely filled with dementia by the time you're debating Donald Trump and Vermin Supreme. But you will have certainly gotten the nomination, sir. And that is, there's many different layers to what that is. Sad is one of them.
Participation trophy waiting to happen right now.
That is quite the participation trophy. And I mean, there's a lot of layers to what that means. Most of them are bad. The one good thing for Joe Biden is it shows the value of stick-to-itiveness on a level that just doesn't usually exist. Most people don't stick to it like that.
That's true. That is true.
Nor should they.
When you start running in 1987, before roughly half of our audience was born.
Yep.
You are you have some level of tenacity and dedication.
Self-hatred.
That could be it. That definitely could be it.
Yeah. That could be it.
Constantly end up losing.
But again, he's doing it. He's doing it. Like, I mean, if nothing else, the guy's doing it. Of course, Bernie Sanders, not doing it. Which, you know.
I was reading an interesting article, which we don't have here in the notes, so I'm going to paraphrase the crap out of this entire thing. But they were saying that Bernie, in the short run, Bernie he's going to be looked at as a Robin Hood type figure amongst a lot of people, right? Because he has essentially changed the face of the Democratic Party.
Yes.
Right. In the long run, he is going to be seen as the person who destroyed the Democratic Party.
Very possibly. I mean, we'll see. This is, you know, there are two questions here. I just hate that we're not seeing more of Chris. I want here. I'm going to put Chris up here. So, you know, it really comes down to where do you think the direction of the country is headed long term in terms of their thinking. Young voters are not against the label of socialism. And ultimately what Bernie's proposing is just sort of an acceleration of what all the other Republicans and Democrats are proposing, which is just vast expansion of government into every aspect of our lives. He just calls it socialism or democratic socialism. Young voters are okay with that. Older voters are fine with ever-expanding government and even Bernie's policies, as long as you don't call them socialism, because they don't know what words mean, but they have been told socialism is, in fact, bad. So we'll see. I mean, we'll see. But it fully depends. I mean, of course, I'm out here with my running mate trying to convert the youths to a more self-ownership way of thinking.
Youths?
The youths.
Youths. Oh,
the youths. The youths.
The Utes.
Utes. The two Utes.
The two Utes.
The two Utes. They're definitely not going to get that reference.
No, they are not going to get that reference. Well, Chris Reynolds might get that reference.
Chris Reynolds will get it, but Chris Reynolds is a Ute type person, but actual like legal Utes are going to have some difficulty with that one, unless they're into good movies,
right? Which
they often are not. So like very often just not. So that is our primary update. And speaking of terrible things that really none of us are in any ability to control, the Federal Reserve has been taking some incredible action recently to help try to keep the stock market going. Not working too well, Matt.
Oh yeah, no, you are right. It is not going well at all.
It's going pretty much like that right there.
Yeah, they pumped what, 2.2?
So a total of I'm going to leave that up. I like that. $2.2 trillion. We might leave that up all episode, honestly. $2.2 trillion pumped into the banks, mostly into Wall Street in a desperate bid to try to keep it from continuing to plummet, which it still is. Basically what they did was one was a $1.5 trillion action, I guess we'll call it, and the other one was $700 billion. But essentially what they did was they printed out 2.2 trillion Federal Reserve notes, or dollars, as we like to call them, and they used it for three main things. One was to give out zero interest loans to banks, not to you, to people who need it, but to banks. And then the other thing that they did was get into what are called repo loans, where they basically take over terrible loans. And also they bought what they call troubled assets, which are basically junk that is worthless, but they buy it at asking price from the banks and other financial institutions. And then the rest they just well, no, that was the things they did. The other thing that they did was they lowered the interest rate to 0%. So now they're just giving money to banks and saying, just give us this back, unless you end up becoming a troubled asset, and then you don't have to. So it's really a no risk, no interest loan. Who wouldn't like one of those? Got to be a bank. Got to be a bank to do that. And then the other thing they do, which is possibly the most frightening out of all this, we're going to get more into what this speaks to in terms of the money that they've spent. They set the reserve for banks at 0. Now, you may not know what that means. I'm going to explain something about something called fractional reserve banking, which on the campaign trail I often use ponies as an allegory, but I'm going to not do that now. Because you're going to wonder why I'm talking about ponies. So I'm going to stick to what we're talking about here. Fractional reserve banking. You might think that when you deposit your money at the bank, that it sits there, and that for some reason they put interest on it if it's in a savings account, and that when you go in to get the money, they simply give you back the money that you have there. You would be terribly wrong about that. We have something called fractional reserve banking, which means that banking institutions that hold your money only have to keep a certain fraction of the amount of money that they've taken in deposits. They have to only keep a certain fraction of that in reserves. The rest, they can lend out, they can put into investments, into bonds. They usually put it into low-risk investments like bonds and annuities and things like that. But they put it into low-risk investments with the idea that it'll make interest, and then they give you some of that, a tiny, tiny fraction of that interest, in exchange for the fact that they're using your money. And of course, if everyone came and tried to take their money out, like for example, during a thing where people might all not be working suddenly at the same time for some reason that we're not going to talk about, that's called a run on the banks, because they don't have your money. It's all out in other stuff. What the Federal Reserve did was there's a legal fraction, a minimum amount that you have to keep, and I think it's like 1/22. You have to have $1 for every $23, every $22 that has been deposited in your bank. You have to keep $1 in reserves. It's pretty impressive. Now it's 0. They can take all of the money they have, including the money that was just lent to them at 0%, and put it out there to hopefully make some money back. And the economy is still tanking as a result of that. Now, it's a good thing that we aren't simultaneously in a situation where millions of Americans might go to the bank and try to withdraw all their money so they can buy stuff they need at a time when they aren't working. Because that would be terrible, Matt.
That would be absolutely awful.
Now, putting back in... Oh, sorry.
That would be absolutely awful. I feel as though we may have gone through a similar situation to all of this roughly 90 years ago.
And it's possibly maybe way worse now because there's an additional possible factor that we're not talking about. Yeah, no, it's bad. And let's get back to that $2.2 trillion. Because in my mind, the fractional reserve thing is way scarier. In the long run, for what that could mean in terms of a run on the bank and a complete devaluation of our dollar when people realize there aren't any for you to get unless you're holding on to them. $2.2 trillion is roughly the equivalent. There's 128 million American households. That would be enough money to give every American household $17,000. Now, instead, what they did was they ran up $17,000 per American household in your names against your will, and that collectively made the stock market go up for roughly 30 minutes before dropping again. Because the economy at large and the people who were doing investing and the people who follow the trends recognize that we are in a free fall right now because the bubble economy is correcting, and there are possibly other factors as well that we won't be talking about. So this is a bad thing. They ran up more money in your name instantly without any writ by Congress or any kind of approval, because they already have approval. to do as much as they want. So the next time that you have a government official correctly tell you, a politician correctly tell you that they can't just hand you money. You got to pull yourself up by your bootstraps. And if they give you money like that, they're really just taking it from you. And it's going to cause inflation. And those things are all correct. What they did was they took from you and they caused inflation to go up by adding more money to the money supply, which devalues all of the currency. But they didn't give it to you. They gave it to trillion-dollar institutions to desperately try to keep their profits afloat. And it failed. This is why we say end the Fed. Your currency should not be held hostage by governments who print out money for solely political purposes. Your money should come from competing institutions that would have a vested interest in getting you to use their currency instead of someone else's. Imagine if your money gained value slowly over time and the cost of things went down or at least remained the same over time because institutions are trying to compete for your dollars. Imagine if the simple fact of life that we all acknowledge, that the cost of living just slowly goes up over time and sometimes quickly goes up, wasn't happening. Your money's worth the same thing 10 years from now that it was now, or maybe even worth a little bit more. The cost of living is roughly the same 10 years from now as it is now, or possibly even more. That's a reality we could live in if government didn't have a monopoly on the issuance and legal tender recognition of currency. I'm going to take this down now because that's pretty...
Chris Reynolds says he could be wrong. I could be wrong. I haven't researched it. But the Fed usually purchases T-bills to increase the cash supply in the economy. It results in massive inflation, but I suppose they might have introduced new cash, but that's really unusual if they did.
That's correct. That's how they do it. They purchase T-bills, but this time they went over and above that. Oh, and that was the other thing. I said there was another thing they did. They purchased Treasury bills so that the government would have some more money. But a lot of that money was given to banks. Remember in 2008 when there was a TARP bailout or 2007 when there was a TARP bailout for the bank? Well, no, 2008. Whenever it was, when there was a TARP bailout for the banks and everyone got mad and Congress passed it, the Fed essentially just did that on nearly triple the scale as the TARP, or over triple the scale as the TARP bailouts without any legislation. They just announced they did it. And you'll have to pay that back with interest. Oh, and if you want one of the loans from the banks that just got that interest-free loan money that you're going to have to pay back with interest, if you want the loan from that money, you'll have to pay that back with interest. Either way, you're paying it back with interest. This is why we're libertarian. This is one of the main things that will drive a lot of people that follow economics into libertarianism. This is a blatant theft. There's no other way to call it. It is theft and fraud. It is someone forcing you at gunpoint to use their money and then printing out endless reams of that money and giving it to other people so that your money becomes less valuable. It is the equivalent of 4 people playing a game of Monopoly, and 3 of them have to play by the rules. And if they get money, it's because they, have been playing correctly and they, getting rents from the properties they bought. But one player simply goes to the banker and says, "Yeah, I'll have I'd like $1 million Monopoly dollars for this round." And take it from their money, make them pay it back with interest. Who do you think is going to win that game of Monopoly?
Hey, real quick, breaking. With 4% reporting, Joe Biden wins the Democratic presidential primary in Illinois.
With 4% reporting?
4%. With 82% reporting in Florida, Biden's up 61-23, and nobody's winning.
They haven't announced. Oh, they won't announce a winner because the West hasn't closed.
No, the West has closed now, but yeah, they still haven't done it.
Really?
Yeah, I know. I'm actually kind of shocked.
With 80-something% reporting, Biden is up 67-23, and they're not calling that?
61-23.
61-23 with 80-something% reporting.
Right.
Too close to call. Illinois at 4%, not too close to call. That's interesting. Are you sure that the West is closed? Are you sure that's not why they're keeping it?
I think they close at 7, so
When
because I know they closed at 7 here.
Well, maybe they're being. Yeah, no, they're all closed.
They must have like still like Orlando or the rest of Miami or like huge areas that aren't close to being done.
I guess so, but goodness, 80%. He's got a 40-point lead. One would think, but you know what? We've seen other ones where they looked really, really, where they looked like there was a landslide in one direction and it wasn't being called. We saw that in where was it? Oh man, on Super Tuesday, there was one where Biden was behind, but they wouldn't call it, and then sure enough, he ended up winning it.
Yeah, that was
Texas,
Tennessee. Or that one.
Yeah, no, it was Texas. Yeah, it was Texas, where it was like, okay, he's still behind, and it kept going. We're like, now it wasn't by 40 points, but it was like he's still behind, and it's 70% report. Why are we doing this? And sure enough, he ended up winning it because they're modeling with. So unless like the Bernie Sanders County is still counting, I have to think Joe's won Florida and Illinois.
Oh yeah, well Illinois. Joe won Illinois with 4%. So
good stuff.
He's got that. If like Biden was forecasted to win about 158 delegates here in Florida, and then Illinois looking at another 100, which that would conservatively we can say he'll get 225 out of this. And that's going to put, I don't have that up in front of me, but basically at that point, Bernie should just drop out. But as we know,
he's not going to.
He's going to fight till the bitter end.
He has to.
No, he does.
Yeah, it's his brand. He has to fight it. He has to fight to the end, where he will then announce that he's supporting Biden. So speaking
at the convention.
At the convention. Speaking of, and then he'll give like 3 very lackluster rallies for Biden, where he shows up and goes, you go, okay, yeah, good, okay, like he did for Hillary in 20. Yeah, okay, good. So speaking of Florida and drug influence, one of Matt's favorite people has had a bit of a time, hadn't he, Matt?
Meth in his mouth?
I'm not sure what's going on. Andrew Gillum, former Tallahassee mayor and gubernatorial candidate, pictured here thinking about what that meth do. Matt, you know more about this story, so I'm going to let you lead on this one.
So, Andrew Gillum, who ran for governor and lost to Ron DeSantis in a very close race, was found in a hotel room with a man who had appeared to have overdosed. And also, no judgment here, just tossing this out, also happened to have been a gay male escort. And there were multiple bags of meth found all over. Now, being that we are libertarians or anarchists or whatever box you want to put us in, we don't care about either of these things.
Yep.
But when a prominent politician is found in a hotel room with an overdosed gay escort and bags of meth, you kind of have to point out the hypocrisy.
Just a little, especially since he's married to a woman.
Officers did try to speak with Gillum, but he found he was unable to communicate because of his inebriated state, the police report said. Gillum later left the room and returned to his residence without incident. The police report said he has denied doing any meth, said he was at a wedding, said he was drunk. Could be true. Don't know. It seems like they didn't feel the need to drug test him.
Yeah, funny that.
Yeah, that's weird.
In a zero tolerance state like Florida.
Right.
He must have just been drunk, Matt.
Must have just been drunk. Yep. So while he didn't have any charges brought up on him, Marianne, Spike's favorite, Marianne Williamson, called about potentially teaming up. I don't even know what word that was supposed to be. For potentially teaming up for a run for office together, and their campaign slogan would be "We run on crystals."
Well, I'm sure that Andrew could use some of Marianne's crystals. That might help with his healing. He's actually entered rehab. Isn't that correct?
Did he? I actually stopped following that story
immediately. Okay. I believe he has now announced that, he is now living as a gay man, as Kevin Spacey did, and to applaud him for his bravery in this trying time of being caught cheating on his wife in a drug-fueled male escort soiree. And so he's in rehab. So thoughts and prayers. Great to hear that, people in power get caught in situations that most of us would end up in prison for, or at least on probation or parole. But not them. No, they just get to go home, sleep it off with their wife. Did the gay escort die?
I don't believe so. Last I read, he was still alive.
Okay, good. Well, that
again,
at least
I stopped following that story.
At least no one died.
Because the hilarity of it really ends at that point.
It does. It's true. It's true. Now, thankfully, no one died. But speaking of, I don't have the thing. Oh yeah, I do. Speaking of, I don't know, Democrats making various choices. In Washington, the Washington primary, which was last week or the week before?
It was last week.
Okay, it wasn't Super Tuesday. Yeah. It was last week.
No, it was the not so Super Tuesday.
Okay, it was not so Super Tuesday. So in Washington State, where people have, they have a lot of time to mail in their stuff, so it takes a long time. It's an all mail only, mail in. Females are allowed to vote.
Yeah, that's a weird way to put that.
A mail review. No, it's a all mail in by various genders and sexes election primary, and that's how they do it. There are no polling places, which is kind of an interesting way to do it nowadays. No particular reason.
Relying on the U.S. Postal Service to deliver the entire state's ballots on time
in a week. So with 94% reporting, Joe Biden is ahead by 21,000 votes, 37.9 to 36.5% in one of these states that Bernie Sanders was expected to win because of the large number of progressive voters.
Because of Seattle.
32 years this man told you this would happen. And you all forsook him. Forsook?
You all have had forsaken him.
You have forsaken, past tense, him. But he showed you who was full of malarkey. Not him.
Not him.
You bunch of roaches. So that's fine. Okay, so that's Washington. Oh, so speaking of old people yelling at each other, we had a debate. Yesterday?
Yeah, two old men yelling at the sky.
Yeah, the social distancing debate of 2020 between Joe Biden and Bernie Sanders. There, pictured telling each other how much they respect the other and believe that whoever wins, the other one will endorse the other. That's what you're seeing. There's mutual respect and a belief that either of them would be just an ideal choice to run for president. That's that there.
Did you catch any of that debate? I know that you were busy that night.
I didn't, and I'll talk about later why. I was in my own presidential debate that I didn't know was going to happen. So no, I didn't catch it.
So I caught the end of it. probably the last 45 minutes or so. And it was like two drunk uncles
That's
who
fair.
agree 80%, and the other 20% is just the level to which they agree. Like they agree on all issues,
Right.
but just we need to do more here, we need to do more here. And like that was basically it. And you kept seeing Bernie looking at Biden and with his Michael J. Fox hand, just sorry, shaking it at him.
Gonna get some calls on that one.
Yeah, just shaking it at him. You know, you don't care about whatever. And then Biden would try to power stance him, which was amazing to watch because he'd be facing the audience and then he would turn, put one hand down on the lectern, and put the other hand in his pocket, and just stand there with his Biden grin, showing all of his veneers to everybody, and just kind of
his absurdly white and large teeth,
right. And then
that
he would
come
sit
out
there
occasionally,
and giggle, and just be like, you saw him like visibly laughing at what Bernie was saying, and it was a bizarre interaction between the two of them. It was really weird to watch.
Well, and that's what he did, if you'll recall, to Paul Ryan in their debate. He just laughed at him the whole time, and he didn't really respond to what he said. And I remember how frustrating that was when I was a Republican. Now I'd probably laugh a little bit more, but the bottom line was he had zero interest in actually having a substantive discussion because he knew they were polling ahead. So why do it? Why not just get the other guy mad and be like, "Ha, you angry?" And that's basically what he just did to Bernie.
Come at me, bro. You mad? Why mad, bro?
Why are you mad, bro? So other stuff happened here. So he, Biden committed to the Paris Climate Accord. Then Bernie says that isn't going. Go ahead.
So he was like, I committed to rejoining the Paris Climate Accord, which I helped start, I guess. And I was like, I don't know, is this like Al Gore inventing the internet kind of a thing, or? But I was like, I don't care enough about the Paris Climate Accord, so I didn't even look it up.
Right.
And then Bernie was saying that Biden isn't going far enough. It was weird because he was like, the Paris Climate Accord doesn't go far enough, and then he kind of pitched the Paris Climate Accord, and then on top of that, he threw in the Green New Deal.
Nice.
Yeah, it was a really weird. Everything that they did was weird.
Well, you've got a situation where Bernie has to, his only hope, which at this point he has none.
Zero.
Functionally none. I mean, is it still possible for him to win? Yes, if there is a massive sea change in suddenly supporting him. These are both men that everyone has decided what they think at this point. And what's happening, if anything, is a trend in the opposite direction where people are saying, you know what, I may like Bernie, but we need to end this and get together to defeat Donald Trump. And so they're, coalescing around the people's choice, 32 years running, Joe Biden. And it's a very interesting dynamic to watch because I don't know what Bernie can do at this point. I don't think he really can do anything at this point.
No, not really. Not really.
Right.
One of the female moderators, I don't remember which one. I just know it was one of the females that asked.
The women
asked, what's that?
The women.
One of the women. Yeah,
one of the women.
She asked if the candidates would commit to female vice president candidates, and Biden committed quickly. And I believe, if I remember correctly, she said, Vice President Biden, would you consider a female vice president for your vice president, or female for your vice presidential nominee?
Right.
And Biden's answer was yes. And that was it. And I was like, man, that was actually the best answer he could have given right there.
Shut up. Just yes. And
shut
then
up.
shut up.
Yes.
Because Joe Biden waxing philosophical about
women.
About women.
That's dangerous.
Terrible idea. Possibly, we were just talking about something that could end his career. It still wouldn't, but it certainly wouldn't help Joe Biden giving a solid 2 or 3 minute hot take on choosing a woman for anything ever. So it's just saying yes was probably his best. That was actually very smart of him.
That was.
To just say yes. Now, Bernie, not to be outdone, he said he's going to get a progressive female vice president, not just a female vice president. Because you know all those non-progressive female Democrats in the running for VP. Like, you know.
Yeah, like both of them.
Like Sarah Palin.
Who, by the way, let's talk Sarah Palin.
Oh,
real
no.
quick.
Like, okay. Or were you going to talk about the thing with the twerking or whatever?
She was on The Masked Singer. Like, I am not gonna. That was shocking to me.
Spoiler alert, by the way.
That was that was the first episode.
I haven't seen it yet.
Well, then you should have seen it on Facebook.
Like 2 weeks ago. I know. I know.
Right. That was literally 2 weeks ago.
I've been busy dealing with the thing that we don't say.
Do you have it?
No. Well, I don't think so. I'm still dealing with it.
Yeah, me too. I binge watch television because everything is closed.
Yeah. Everything's closed. So yeah, so Sarah Palin, she did a Sir Mix-a-Lot song.
A Sir Mix-a-Lot song.
A Sir Mix-a-Lot song. And then
one of the many hits by Sir Mix-a-Lot.
One of that one.
Right.
You know. That one. He had a good one in like the late 90s called.
Did he?
Yeah, what was it called? Jump on it. So where you at? Jump on it.
Oh, anyway. Was that him?
Yes. So he was actually, so yes, there was an older version, but then he changed it up. It was nowhere near as big a hit as Baby Got Back, but you know.
Right. The other one was the Will Smith cowboy dancing thing.
Yes.
Dun. I'm not even going to try that. Never mind. I changed my mind immediately after hitting one.
Do it. No. So yeah. So that happened. So, I mean, meanwhile, Biden's been saying he's going to pick a woman for a while. Like he keeps talking about he wants Michelle Obama, and then he's mentioned Kamala, the cop, Harris, and Stacey Abrams has been brought up. Like he's made it clear that he's going to pick
Amy Klobuchar.
Has he brought up Amy Klobuchar?
Well, no. Okay, so during a campaign stop that Amy Klobuchar was doing for Biden,
Yep.
she said, that is why I decided to join this ticket.
She dropped that. She dropped that to get attention, I think.
I did, possibly. Yeah. I mean, I don't know. It wouldn't surprise me if that happened, and it also wouldn't surprise me if he said, hey, if you drop out and endorse me, I'll make you VP because I'm going to pick a woman and you're as good as any other.
Which is a lie. If he told her that, for his sake, I would hope that he reneged on that instantly. What a terrible choice she'd be.
So she's really popular in the Midwest.
But so's he.
I think he's planning on delivering the East.
Oh.
And California, you know, the West Coast, you're not worried about. Like you're winning that.
I would think he's going for a black woman.
I mean, it wouldn't shock me.
I mean, that's what I'm thinking. That's what he would, and I would love to hear him give a lengthy explanation as to why, because he doesn't know, but he'll sure tell you something, and
that would actually be great to watch.
It will be incredibly entertaining and probably extremely offensive too.
I got this blonde leg hair, and
I got this blonde. She likes it.
She can't wait to get to the White House pool bottom, and push them down. And...
You know, their hair is not like that.
Their hair is different.
Their hair is different than mine.
Different over there.
You know, their hair is different than mine. They got to wear a bonnet when they go to sleep. Just like an old corn pop.
Old corn pop.
Oh, Cornflake Johnson.
Cousin Cornflake Johnson.
Cornflake Johnson. So, oh goodness, that's a fun story. So of course nobody won that debate, but just like the rest, America looms.
Yeah, America loses. No matter what happens in November, America loses.
America's losing right now, arguably. So speaking of losing,
real fun before we get into this awful subject.
Okay.
Today, I saw it way too late to add it to the notes, but today, Donald Trump tweeted out that we are at war with a hidden enemy.
Oh God.
We will win, which sent conspiracy nuts spiraling.
Yeah.
So get ready for all of the Q.
Oh gosh.
The QAnon theories and everything else to start coming out of the woodwork on your Facebook feeds and your YouTube timelines or however that works. And
couldn't obviously be the most obvious answer to what he's referring to.
No.
Like, no way.
No way.
It's clearly part of the plan.
Big
trust the plan. I hate that I keep forgetting I even use my Chris mug, but every time I go, I'll go get my Kroger water. So
yeah. I don't have my other one. I left it. I was helping my girlfriend move into her apartment, and I left it in the U-Haul.
Oh wow. I have a blue and a pink one. My wife uses the pink one because she's a girl.
She's a girl.
So there's really no good segue. This is from now on, pretty much the rest of the show. Not that we weren't already talking about terrible things, but these are just terrible, terrible things.
This is a bummer of an episode. This is just
a bummer. We'd like to take a break from that other bummer you've been hearing about the past month.
To really get you down about some other stuff.
Just to let you know that everything sucks.
Right.
Not just that thing. Even if that wasn't here, everything would suck. So we had another red flag murder by the police in Maryland of a man named Duncan Lemp, pictured here on vacation. He was a 21-year-old Maryland resident. He identified as a libertarian who had strict adherence to the Constitution, and yet the Constitution failed him, Matt.
Yeah, the Constitution did fail to
stop him from being murdered.
Right. Did not work as multiple of the amendments were violated as he slept, mind you.
Yep.
As he was sleeping, multiple of these amendments violated. A concerned neighbor, I'm not really sure where the quote should go there, probably over the concerned. A concerned neighbor called in a protection order on him, part of Maryland's red flag law, saying he wasn't allowed to own any guns. A statement the police have repeated, but the reason why is unknown. This is actually something that's very interesting to me. It keeps saying that he is not allowed, he's prohibited from owning guns, and now this could mean that he's got a medical marijuana card in the state of Maryland. It could mean that he's a felon in the state of Maryland.
Which I don't believe, because didn't his lawyer say he has no prior offenses?
Yes. But so nobody understands why exactly. It hasn't come out why he wasn't allowed to own a gun. But for whatever reason, that is what the story is. Now, a regional police, right, exactly. Now, original police reports say that Duncan confronted them during an early morning raid and was shot. So at like 4:51 in the morning on Thursday, the police do everything correctly based on red flag law rules, which of course are very incorrect.
Garbage, yeah.
They're just garbage, especially Maryland's.
Yep.
But so they did everything the way that they are supposed to, based on the letter of the law, which is just crap. And he confronted them and ended up shot. That was all it said. Confronted.
That's their official story of what happened.
That was their official story.
Right.
Is their official story. However, there are conflicting stories from both Lemp's girlfriend. I don't like calling it Duncan. From both Duncan's girlfriend, more personal. I feel like I know this guy a little bit.
We are this guy.
From both Duncan's girlfriend and neighbors, that the police never once entered the house. They never shot a flashbang. They just opened fire into the house. Now, mind you, he did not live here alone. He lived there with his family and 19-year-old brother, and apparently his girlfriend was there as well. And they fired into the house, killing him while he slept and injuring Duncan's girlfriend.
Wow.
Now, again, police. He confronted us during an early morning raid.
Right.
Another neighbor, probably not the concerned one, just tossing that one out there.
I was going to say, yeah, probably a different, a non-concerned neighbor.
Right. So another neighbor and the girlfriend say, no. The neighbor was saying they fired in the house without firing a flashbang or anything like that. And the girlfriend's going, we were asleep. We were 100% asleep. Man. So yes, he was he was shot while sleeping in his bed. So the eyewitness testimony, as I said before, says that the police fired bullets from outside the house, no flashbangs or warnings, a tactic used in imminent threat cases. Now, the warrant police obtained to search the Potomac home that Duncan shared with his parents and 19-year-old brother does not mention any imminent threat to law enforcement or the public. Duncan's relatives said in a statement released by their lawyers.
So the police basically, if we were to believe everyone except for the police, his family, his neighbors, basically rolled up on his house and opened fire into his home while he slept.
Right. Now,
because he wasn't allowed to own a gun, but yet we aren't being told why. Which, in these situations, the first thing that the police do after they murder someone is do everything they can to discredit and ruin that person's name to make them look like someone who deserved it. Which means you hear every terrible thing they ever did. We're not hearing him having done terrible things.
These are the quote-unquote terrible things that we're hearing that Duncan did.
The terrible thing is he shouldn't have had a gun, but with no proof of that. Which, again, they would be showing.
He was also an avid troll who talked about the Boogaloo. He had an Instagram account, which I have been on to confirm that this was there. And he posted something a few days beforehand or a week beforehand of two arms holding up rifles, two rifles. And it said Boogaloo on it in Reddit forums. And I found him on there, and I wanted to make sure that it was real. He would talk about things that two people that many of you out there may watch weekly talk about regularly.
Which isn't a crime.
No, not a crime.
Boogaloo memes are not a crime, and they're certainly not a crime deserving of being shot in your sleep. This is some scary stuff. Again, there's he said, she said, but here's what we know. Oh, and the police have not released any body cams or anything like that, correct?
No, not yet. The lawyer has requested them. But they have not given them out.
Now, this appears, from what we can tell, from eyewitnesses except for the killers, and from circumstantial evidence, this appears to just be a straight up murder of someone who they looked into, saw Boogaloo memes, got pissed off, and decided they'd go kill him.
Right.
Just to disprove his whole belief that the police are bad. There are multiple amendments to the Constitution that this violated. At least the second and the fourth.
And the fifth.
And the fifth and the first. Because this could have all have happened over memes that are free speech. And yet, they still did it. Because it turns out if you write something on a sheet of paper and say that it protects someone, but no one follows it, it doesn't mean anything. As I say a lot on this show, and my show, and at dinner, on Christmas, and many other situations where my wife wishes I would stop.
The old Thanksgiving.
The old Thanksgiving
Boogaloo talk.
Let's say a blessing, everyone. According to Lysander Spooner, the Constitution has either authorized the government to do the things that it does to you every day, or it has been powerless to stop them. Either way, it has proven itself unfit to exist. If any of you have seen Casino, the movie Casino, there's a scene in it where Robert De Niro's character, Roth, I think his name is Roth, Robert De Niro's character, he's forced to hire some redneck gambling commissioner's son or son-in-law or something like that to work at the casino in order to get the license or whatever. So he lets this guy do it. He comes into the casino one day, and at one of their main slot jackpots, one after another, people are winning the big jackpot. And the guy he hired is just sitting there dumbfounded by the whole thing. He fires him on the spot, and someone says to him, to Robert De Niro's character, hey, you don't know if he's in on it. He may have just, not been able to realize it. He said, exactly. Either he was in on it, or he's too stupid to know the difference. Either way, he's a liability. I'm not keeping him. That guy is the Constitution. So to start on a cheery note.
Yeah, and again, like we said earlier, nobody in the house that morning had a criminal record. And just because somebody is an online troll, just pointing out a couple of options.
Yeah.
You can't just kill them for talking online.
Unless you're the police. Then you can. Of course.
Right. So if you're out there and you aren't exactly of like-mindedness with us on things like, I don't know, guns, how would you feel having a death on your conscience because you decide to red flag somebody?
Yep.
Please don't.
Please don't.
Just avoid the person. They probably won't ever do anything to you.
You'll never hear from them again.
Yeah, you'll probably never talk to them again.
If someone is actually harassing you and you feel the need to call the police, that's one thing.
Right.
If you feel that you're at threat. But if someone's just saying things that bother you and you contact the police, there's a good chance that person will end up dead, even if they're sleeping when the police got there.
Mm-hmm.
Because police are being conditioned right now into, I've been saying wartime tactics, but I had someone point out to me who was a veteran of Iraq and Afghanistan. They're not allowed to act this way in Iraq and Afghanistan. They can't just go up and, bust down people's houses and shoot them unless they have some reason to suspect that there's something going on in there. And they often have to wait until someone has pointed and presented or they see weaponry before they can fire. And in some cases, the rules of engagement are that they have to be fired on first before they fight back. Not here, though. Here, they can just kill you in your sleep. And if they can craft a compelling enough narrative based on lies with no evidence that you were a bad guy that deserved it, half of this country will instantly believe it. Because they've been raised to do so, and because it fits their normalcy bias and their desire to believe that the government isn't really trying to hurt them. Which leads to a lot of problems, like stuff we're not talking about right now. So these are cheery. Please tell me we have something from Chris.
We do. We get
okay. Thank God.
I don't know how many.
Thank God, because Chris usually has like slightly more, just a little bit of
brings some levity to the show. Some
levity that's desperately needed. We got a few. Chris was on a tear. So guys, my favorite part of our show, the personal injury attorney Chris Reynolds, attorney at law, anchor call-in moment, brought to you by Chris Reynolds, right here, attorney at law. Chris Reynolds.
Want one of his water bottles autographed by all three of us.
All three of us.
Just
give us money.
Right.
Just give us money. MuddyWatersOfFreedom@gmail.com at PayPal.
Water bottle, but it's worth it.
You can do that one in two ways. I know what you're wondering. How can I give these two handsome gentlemen who are also brilliant my money? You can go to PayPal and PayPal literally any amount of money you want to muddywatersoffreedom@gmail.com, or you can go to anchor.fm/muddiedwaters, and there's a donate or contribute button there as well. We will take your money.
Or if you're more of the crypto, you can head on over to Float.
Oh, yeah. Go to float.app.
And you can donate to us there.
flote.app/muddiedwatersmedia, and you can donate your crypto that you've been hodling. Hodl no longer, folks. You can hodl it over to us.
Real quick, before we get into Chris. Sure. I meant to put this in the opening, and I forgot.
Okay.
Michael Edwards.
Oh, yeah. Update us on that.
Okay, so Michael Edwards. Many of you may know who Michael Edwards is based on us talking about him in the past. He is a friend of ours, father, who went to prison in 1993. He got sentenced to life because it was during the three strikes and you're out rule, where if you had 3 felonies. He was set up by his ex-girlfriend in a sting where he bought cocaine from a cop.
Yep.
Gave it to his ex-girlfriend, who gave it to a cop.
Insane.
To prove that she bought it from him. So he ended up going to prison, and he was sentenced to life for less than a tablespoon. It was either a tablespoon or a teaspoon. I don't remember which. This past week, the clemency board granted him clemency, and he is just waiting on Governor DeSantis to sign.
That is awesome.
This is so, I am so happy for Kingsley and for Michael more so, but for Kingsley, who gets to hang out with his dad outside of prisoner visiting rooms. And this is absolutely amazing.
Freaking,
this was like the feel-good story of the week for us here at Muddied Waters. But since it was so personal to people, we didn't really push it that much on our page.
Right. Because it is a personal story, but what a great story! And I'm going to be updating my followers on it as well, because I've been doing updates on my Spike Facebook.com/literally Spike Cohen. That's Spike Cohen, your next VP. That's my page on Facebook, and I've been updating them on that. We've been talking about that for months. Starting first on my profile, and we did talk about it on Muddy Waters, but we've been kind of waiting until there's information. So what steps are left before Michael is free and back with his family?
He has to be signed out by the governor.
Mm-hmm.
And fun fact, the governor has never rejected signing a clemency board recommendation here in Florida.
That's freaking awesome.
So he's waiting on that, and then it's just paperwork, and he's out. So
that is awesome.
He and the thing that we're not talking about, has delayed their wedding.
Oh, Kingsley and Aaron's wedding, yeah,
because they're getting married. And it delayed their wedding. They delayed it till November. So no matter what, Michael will be at his son's wedding.
That is so cool.
Amazing.
That is freaking awesome.
Yeah, which is great news. I'm very happy for everybody involved in this. And
he'll probably be at Anarcho Vegas, won't he?
Yeah, probably.
Because that's like in October, right?
Maybe. I don't know if he's going to have like a you can't leave the state for.
Oh, yeah.
So no matter what, I'm very happy for
awesome.
Aaron and for I'm very happy for Aaron and Kingsley, and more than both of them, Michael.
For Michael, yeah.
Right, because he's finally getting out after 27 years.
That is absolutely
for a tea or a tablespoon of cocaine that his ex-girlfriend set him up on. Same state as
where Andrew Gillum just got caught with a bunch of meth and an overdosing escort. And what did he get?
He got sent home
He got sent home because he's a person in power.
Right.
He's a person in power.
Big news for our friends.
Huge news.
And Michael, I know you can't watch this, but I hope one day you get a chance to see it. And
I can't wait to I'd love to have him on our show.
Oh yeah, I would have him on this show. I would absolutely have him on this show.
I'll give him a show if he wants. He could have a show if he wants one. He can
take the Thursday time block.
I'm fine with that. He could, Thursday, Friday, Thursday, Saturday, whatever. He can have whatever he wants. I cannot wait to be able to actually welcome him home. That is so freaking awesome. I'm so excited.
I'm so happy for them. And
I mean, it hasn't officially happened yet, but like you said, everyone that's looking at the case is saying it's absurd that he's still in prison, and there's never been a case of
the prosecutor who tried the case said no, he should be out, and said that like 10 years ago.
10 years ago, yeah.
Right. There have been multiple people who have fought for him, and it's just never worked out, whether it was Rick Scott or different people on the clemency boards or whatever. And this time,
Matt Wright contacted someone he knew, which set the ball rolling. Matt Wright, the guy you're looking at on my I guess my left, because I'm looking at it on my screen, but my right, your left. This dude right here, this handsome gentleman right here, is a big part of what started the catalyst for Michael Edwards soon being free. So be sure to thank Matt. Give him money. Give Matt money, folks.
And while you're giving us money, leave us messages over on Anchor.
Yeah, leave us some messages. We love Chris's messages, but Reynolds, it doesn't have to just be Chris.
Right. This is the personal injury attorney, Chris Reynolds, attorney at law call-in moment.
Sponsored.
But that's because he gives us money.
Right. But you can still call.
Have that.
You can call and ask us questions too.
Right.
Like, we like questions. So anyway, all right, here's the first one from personal injury attorney Chris Reynolds, attorney at law.
Personal injury attorney Chris Reynolds here with your Marshawn moment. So I've got a question for Spike. Having to deal with probably, at least for me, the most important issue of the week. And that, of course, has to do, again, surprisingly, with Marshawn Lynch.
Mm.
In kind of a
Purple.
surprise move, and one of the more visually stunning sci-fi shows out there, Westworld. Marshawn Lynch is I guess, I don't know if he's a bank robber, criminal for hire. I don't know what he is, but I absolutely loved him. I thought it was amazing. His character on the first episode just made me laugh, just filled me with all sorts of emotions. And I just wanted to know what Spike thought of it. Thanks.
Fantastic. That fantastic job by Marshawn Lynch on Westworld. Yeah, he's the football player. He's the one that said, "I'm only here so I don't get fined." Yeah, I know the name. Yeah. And I know Westworld. That's a really popular sci-fi program with Marshawn Lynch on it. And I think that was just stupendous, Matt.
Good.
Stupendous. Yeah. You got any thoughts, Matt?
I've seen like one episode of Westworld, and it looks like something I would get into.
You're missing out. It's just a fantastic television program. It's a sci-fi program. It's got Marshawn Lynch on it.
Well, this season, yeah.
Yeah. It's good. I don't want to ruin it for you, like you did The Masked Singer for me, because I'm a good friend. So we'll go with this next one that promises to be. What's that?
It's a sci-fi western where you go to Westworld, and you can like get like this experience going there.
And of course, yeah. And I don't.
That's all I know about that.
Yeah, and I didn't want to rob you of that. I didn't know what you know.
Well, I saw the original movie.
Okay.
So.
Good. I'm happy for you.
Personal injury attorney Chris Reynolds here with your sports segment. So we had a pretty big announcement recently in sports. Good old Tom Brady has decided to move on from the New England Patriots, and it's being reported potentially that he's probably going to be going to the Tampa Bay Bucks, where Matt and I currently reside, even though I don't know if either one of us are actually Bucks fans. But I wanted to ask you guys, I mean, do you think this is a good move? Is it a good move for the team? Is it a good move for Brady? Is this going to actually work out? Is he past his prime? Just any and all thoughts you have on this move. Thanks.
Hasn't he been with the Patriots his entire career?
Yeah, 20 years.
Why would he go to the... I guess the Patriots don't want him anymore?
No, they did. They were offering him like $20 million a year.
And the Bucks just offered him more?
Yeah. So this is the first time Tom Brady has ever had to that Tom Brady ever tried free agency in 20 years. Every other time he just kept extending his contract. He was like, no, I'm happy here.
Right.
Recently being within the last few years, people were saying that Tom Brady's just a system quarterback and he can't win without Belichick.
Okay.
I think that he kind of wanted to move on. There's also been some friction between Tom Brady and Belichick and ownership. I'm not really sure where in that triad of the Patriots it was coming from, but there was some sort of friction happening, and you could see that people weren't really as happy as they once were, even though they continued to win. But yeah, so he's going to come to Tampa, it looks like, apparently. We'll know more tomorrow when he allegedly is supposed to sign. Now, is Tom Brady past his prime? I can't say. I said that many years ago, and, well, I've been wrong every time. So not going out on a limb on that right now. Granted, he's 42 years old, but he's still a winner. Now, is the team a good fit for him? They've got a lot of great pieces. They've got some of the best wide receivers in the game. They've got one of the best running backs in the game, but they don't have an offensive line. And Tom Brady's, again, 42 years old. So they're going to have to bolster that. But Bruce Arians is their coach, and Bruce Arians would typically run an offense that would fit Tom Brady pretty well. The only other issue that Tampa is going to have is their secondary is really weak, and they need to build that up. And yeah, that's pretty much it on that. Is it a good fit? Not as good as the LA Chargers would have been, but he chose Tampa. And some people say it's because he wanted to be close to his family, which I thought was weird because he just bought a house out in LA.
Why does his family live in Tampa if he's been playing in New England for 20 years?
They don't. They live in New York. He wanted to get out of New England. He wouldn't go to the Giants because they beat him twice in the Super Bowl. He wouldn't go to the Jets because they play each other. They played New England all the time. And I think he was probably looking for somewhere further away. And Tampa is only a 2-hour flight to New York as opposed to a 6-hour flight. Or 7.
Oh, to LA. Oh, okay. I was going to say to Boston, it's like 20 minutes extra. Okay. All right. To LA.
Right.
Well, that's good. So he picked a team that lost to him often.
Oh, also, well, no, they didn't. I mean, they played like once every 4 years or something. Also, the Super Bowl in 2021 is in Tampa. If he is able to turn the team around and win and go to the Super Bowl and win the Super Bowl, it will be the first time ever that the home team wins a Super Bowl in the home stadium.
Oh,
that's never happened before. And I think he kind of wants to like add that to his
list of accomplishments. Yeah. Well, that's interesting.
Right.
Like you said, we'll know tomorrow, but that's odd. I mean, I just know Tom Brady's been playing football since the 90s. So
2001, but yeah.
Oh, I thought it was like 98, 99, no?
He may have had a rookie year, 98, 99, but he didn't play. He was behind Drew Bledsoe.
That is very odd. I echo all of Matt's various things that he said.
Personal injury attorney Chris Reynolds here with your AOC Millennial Minute. So we've got some more big primaries. Florida looks like Biden is going to run away with this thing.
Yes.
Bernie said during the debate and at other points, I think in other speeches during his campaign as well, that he would eventually support the nominee.
Yep.
But, and this is a big but, he has not encouraged his supporters to support whoever the eventual nominee is. And I think that's a pretty big distinction. And I just wanted to get your guys' thoughts on that. Should he be doing that? Will he be doing that? Because we still got a lot of, Bernie or bust people out there, and I don't know that it's going to move the needle unless Bernie himself tells them to do something. So, thanks.
So, Bernie is going to do what he did in 2016. He's going to rage against the dying of the light and present himself as the only true... I know I said that wrong. He's
I mean, you did. You didn't. It was right. It was correct.
Oh, was it right?
Yeah. Rage
against the dying of the light, which is also a machine. And then he's going rage against the machine. And he's going to show up either slightly before or during the convention to endorse Biden and basically say he's better than Trump. And he's going to give, like we said, a couple of lackluster appearances with Biden where he goes, yeah, good. Yeah, you vote for Biden. He's not going to do any serious legwork to try to get Biden elected. Because why should he?
Right.
His entire brand is, I'm not a Democrat. I'm a democratic socialist. I'm not even a member of the party. I only joined to run for president. And, I'm an independent. And he's basically like... He brands himself as like the John McCain of the Democrats. He goes against the grain and all of this stuff. A lot of his supporters are not going to go with him. In fact, we're already seeing a ton of people. I mean, every day I get added. What is it called when people tag you in Facebook on Twitter? Is that adding? They added me.
Oh,
they ampersanded me.
Yeah. At me. Yeah.
They ampersanded me. Because now it's common knowledge that I'm Vermin's running mate, which is hilarious. And they're saying, I'm voting for Vermin Supreme and Spike Cohen, or just I'm voting for Vermin Supreme. Those people aren't going to vote for Joe Biden. Like, they're ready to write in Vermin Supreme's name just to piss off everyone. And if he's on the ballot, they're definitely going to vote for him. I think Biden's not going to win. I don't think he is. I don't think it's going to make enough difference. Bernie Sanders has a devoted group that would rather throw their vote away for a guy with a boot on his head. Even if he's a libertarian, which most of them don't agree with, libertarianism, at least at first blush they don't, until they hear about it. They'll still vote for him. My back. Hold on. Yep. Sorry.
I feel that pain.
No, I know you're going through it too, but they'll still vote for him. By the way, I'm not passing gas. I just want to clarify something here. When I'm doing this, that noise is this. That's the wall behind me. See, that's the wall. Anyway, not passing gas. Joe Biden definitely not going to win. Bernie Sanders does not matter. Matt, you got anything on that?
Yeah. So I know a few members of the Bernard Brethren, and that's the new one. Bernard. Use the full name. Bernard Brethren. I know a few members of the Bernard Brethren, and they are Bernie or bust. Like, that's it.
Yeah,
and
that's it.
Some of them have said to me, if Bernie doesn't get it, I'm going to vote for either Vermin Supreme, which I thought this was a really weird way to word this, either Vermin Supreme or whichever third party candidate has the best chance of getting 5%.
Like, they're just pissed off.
Right.
They don't care. If you're a Bernie Sanders supporter, like one of his most hardcore supporters, you don't see a differentiation between Biden and Trump. If anything, you see Biden as worse because he tries to call himself a progressive, and he's not, or at least not in their minds.
Right.
So they're not going to go for him. Like, they're not going to go for him. So yeah, no, I don't see that. I don't see that happening. I don't see that happening.
I think that what's Bernie's ceiling? Bernie's ceiling's about 23%. 23% of
something like
Democratic voters say that they were going for Bernie. I would say 15% of total. So whatever, I don't do math.
Right.
15% of that is people who will not vote for Biden. If it's like it's Bernie or bust.
Yep.
And that's going to be the difference maker.
Yeah.
That's going to be the difference maker, and potentially giving Vermin Supreme
5% or more.
15%.
Yeah, I mean, you could see a situation, and again, this is, we're going to give some updates on the campaign later on, but we're setting the stage for voters to be told by both major parties, hey, screw you and what you like. And because there are still a lot of conservatives out there that are not happy about Trump at all. And they hate Democrats, but they're not happy with what's happening there. And the Democrats are pissed off about how this is going, or at least a large number of the most progressive ones. And there's a very real possibility for the Libertarian Party. I put it this way. I believe that Vermin Supreme is going to get more votes than any other non-Republican or Democrat, whether or not he gets the Libertarian Party nomination. And that's not to say that if he doesn't get it, he's going to encourage people to write him in. It's to say that he won't need to. I think he'd get 2 or 3%, even if he bows out and endorses the whoever the Libertarian nominee is, and people just are still pissed off and write in Vermin Supreme. Like, there's some serious anger here. So I'll go to the next one right here.
Personal injury attorney Chris Reynolds here with yet another AOC Millennial Minute. So without discussing what's going on in the world today that we all know about in detail, I do think that a couple of things have come out of this whole situation that might be worth discussing. One, the ability of the private sector to act prior to governments. That seemed to happen in this situation, especially with sports leagues and other stores, implementing rules and shutting things down before governments even decided to do anything. And I just thought that might be something interesting if you all had any views on that. And two, the now governmental intervention, shutting down certain businesses but not others, and potential equality clause issues and all sorts of constitutional issues there.
Yeah.
And I'd love to hear your all's thoughts on that. Thanks.
So we're not talking about that thing specifically.
So we can actually, So we're not talking about that
thing.
So we can actually talk about
government in general.
Aspects. Yeah, we can. Yeah, government. Yeah, we can do that.
So basically, Chris, or do you want to talk first?
No, go ahead. Next.
Okay. Basically, Chris, there are many situations in which government hamstrings the ability of private voluntary act. And by the way, when we say private, it doesn't mean there's some country club group. It just means not government. The voluntary, free or as free as possible people who are choosing to do something, not because of some fiat of law or because they're paid by taxpayer dollars. No, you didn't. Chris said I didn't say the thing, and that's correct. You did not say the thing. But there are many situations in which there is a crisis or a potential crisis, and government literally bans non-governmental actors from doing anything to try to detect this bad thing before it becomes worse. And the government themselves also do nothing to detect it and instead tell everyone that everything's fine, nothing to worry about. We're about to talk about why they do that in a minute. So a lot of times, and in fact, if you want to hear more about a specific issue that we don't talk about on my show, if you go to facebook.com/literallyspikecohen or go on over to Twitter @realspikecohen, I have a tweet and a post that both went viral on their respective platforms about a woman named Helen Chu. I'm not going to mention her anymore because we're not talking about the thing. Anyway, an incident in which, so sometimes some of those voluntary private actors will illegally go ahead and start trying to deal with the problem or crisis because they recognize that to not do so would be a violation of their Hippocratic Oath, for example, or just their human decency. And bureaucrats will step in and block them from doing that, and they'll sometimes do it anyway to try to put pressure on government to back off and let them do it. Here's what happens after that. And you can decide, audience at home, you guys can decide for yourselves if this is just inefficient negligence or absolute malfeasance and intentional action or intentional inaction. Once the problem gets bad enough because it wasn't allowed to be dealt with when it could be contained, now we have a situation where the government can step in and say, this is a crisis, everyone is at risk, which is true, and we now are going to tell you to do or not do everything in order to protect you from the thing that we unleashed on you. Some would say we are witnessing that now, but we're not talking about that. Going back to the analogy of the episode of Casino where Robert De Niro goes to the casino and the guy he hired is allowing all these jackpots to go off one after the next, which means obviously someone has cheated the system. And he fires the guy immediately. He fired him because either he was in on it, he intended for this to happen, or he's such a schmuck and a moron that he didn't know any better. I will leave it to you to decide, A, whether government does these things because of inefficiency and negligence or just because they are intentionally doing things to harm you, and B, which one of those is worse. I would argue that the most likely option, which is inefficiency and negligence, is actually the worse option because it means it has nothing to do with the character of the people involved. You can't just replace them with good people. Those are good people. They're just doing their jobs. And their job is to follow rules that are stupid. And they're not allowed to say, hey, this rule is stupid. It's going to hurt a lot of people. Let's not do that. Because they could get in trouble too. At the very least, they'll lose their job. So that is how government creates and or worsens everything. Every problem and crisis that you and I will ever experience. They either create the problem or make it much, much, much worse. And they just so happen to overcorrect afterwards and infringe upon all of our rights, freedom, privacy, and everything else.
Now, personally, let's say something was going on in the nation and the government was like, hey, you guys need to close. Sorry.
Yep.
And let's say that for some reason they believed that by not giving people alcohol, that would help slow things. Sure. Why not? In this hypothetical world. At this point, you are now targeting a specific business.
Right.
You are targeting a specific business. You are making them shut down by, I don't know, let's say 5 o'clock in the afternoon. Let's say you're doing that on St. Patrick's Day. Hence the green. You are now costing a lot of businesses a lot of money. And so many people believe that, the businesses should pay these people while they're off work.
Yeah.
And what they don't understand is that many of the businesses that we're talking about here are going to be small businesses.
Yep.
Razor thin margins for at least the first 5 years, paying employees whatever they can, like paying employees what they're owed because of their agreed upon wage, unless they're getting paid minimum wage, and then it's not the agreed upon wage, it's the wage that was forced upon them.
Right.
They're either doing that or they're not. If they have no money coming in, they can't do anything when the people are not working. They have no way to do it. Whenever something like this happens, you are now forcing small businesses to potentially close.
Yep.
And according to the Constitution, and again, we've been hitting the Constitution a lot today because it's a piece of paper and it's been written.
Yeah. But it's the governing, it's what we are supposedly governed under, so we should be referencing it. Yeah.
Right. But if there's nobody there to enforce it, it doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter.
And the Constitution does say that you cannot discriminate against businesses when making rules and laws.
Mm-hmm.
So they're saying restaurants may have to close by 5 o'clock for sit-down service, no alcohol sales after 5 o'clock, all bars that only serve alcohol close at 5 o'clock. And anywhere else, you just have to cut your occupancy by half.
Which they can't afford, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of depending. Most of the time, people don't hit their full occupancy, so
that's true. But the closing at 5 on a day that this is the.
So what I was saying is, for everybody else, you have to cut your occupancy by half. The people who don't have to close at 5.
Oh, okay.
This is not equal. Mm-mm. You're telling these people shut down. You're telling these people you have to cut your occupancy by half.
Right.
That is a definite sign of discrimination, which is why, I made a post on Facebook on my private account, which isn't really private. I think everything's public on there. I'm not even 100% sure. I'm a great libertarian.
Privacy? What's that?
We're going to talk a lot about that in a minute too.
Yeah.
But I made a post on there and I said, hey, if I owned a business in St. Pete, I would 100% stay open past that. I think at the time it was 9 o'clock. Mm-hmm. And people were just lighting me up, but I was really busy, so I wasn't responding. And then I just came back with, it's unconstitutional. You can't discriminate against one business over another. And our dear friend and just all around wonderful guy and personal injury attorney lawyer. I guess you don't have to say that. That's redundant. Personal injury attorney Chris Reynolds.
Personal injury attorney, lawyer at law.
At law.
At
Right.
law.
He agreed with my statement and said it more lawyery.
And what's happening is they're putting people, hypothetically, in a bad position where they have to either comply with infringing unconstitutional diktat or be seen as contributing to the worsening of one of the greatest crises that humankind has ever faced. So if it's not malfeasance, it sure worked out in their favor.
Yeah.
Because you literally now have to choose one of two things. Do whatever they tell you, or justifiably be seen as making things worse. But not because you intended to, but because something was enforced on you, because was forced upon you because that same organization completely duffed containing it by not allowing private actors to help find it and contain it, and not doing anything to find and contain it themselves, leaving us completely susceptible to the hypothetical thing that we're not talking about.
Right. And hypothetically,
Hypothetically,
the FDA and the DEA may have done some things and said, okay, we're going to get rid of these regulations that we have on testing of things that may help with this. And it just makes you think, so if those regulations weren't there, this may not be as big of an issue.
yeah. There's been all sorts of things they've done. They have lifted all the restrictions on driving times for truck drivers to get more goods and services out to people that are needed. They have lifted the payroll tax, or at least talked about lifting the payroll tax. It's probably going to be happening. They have lifted all sorts of regulations on healthcare workers working across state lines to try to maximize the amount of healthcare workers that can work in hotspots. They've done all sorts of things. Oh, they now are allowing you to carry hand sanitizers that are larger than the maximum size for the TSA on airline flights. All of these things that they told you had to be in place to protect you from the absolute worst things that could ever happen to you. And yet they're all being lifted immediately because not only aren't they protecting you, but they're actually harming you and making it harder for us to deal with things that are hypothetically happening that we're not talking about. It's almost as though those things were never necessary and actually were hurtful. And it's good that they're gone, and hopefully they don't come back. But we know they will come back because it's not about helping you. It's about controlling you. So hypothetically, we're not talking about anything like that.
Yeah, hypothetically.
Totally hypothetically. Not talking about anything in particular.
Nothing in particular, because it's been being crammed down your throat like a porn movie.
But in the bad way.
But in the worst way.
Like where you're crying, but not because you're happy.
Like the German porn movies.
I don't get that reference. I don't get that reference.
Yeah, you don't have to get that.
I definitely do not. I'm a pure boy here. This is a St. Patrick's Day episode. We're not talking about anything else. Here's a question from the last question of the evening from Chris Reynolds.
Injury attorney Chris Reynolds here with, again, your probably favorite segment where we ask Spike, were you wrong?
For God's
and
sake.
This is going to relate to something that we've already dealt with before, but I just didn't know if you felt even more wrong at this point for telling everybody that the good old COVID-19.
We're not talking about the thing.
We're not talking about
really
today, Chris.
About that, it was pretty much kind of like the flu. Things seem to be getting worse and worse. And so, Spike, are you now willing to admit that you were wrong, or are you still going to say that, yes, I was right about a lot of different things and maybe wrong about one little tiny thing? Thanks.
Okay, first of all, we're not talking about the thing. We're not talking about the thing. Second of all, I already said I was wrong twice. Twice I've said I was wrong. And if we're going to talk about the thing.
Last week, what you said was, Okay, so well, I was right about this.
But I was right about those specific things. I was wrong about one thing, which was incredibly crucial, which we are not talking about. But I
Right.
have been clear in saying that while my overall sentiment of what I recommend people do is exactly the same as it was before, I was wrong about the one thing. But we're not talking about the thing.
We aren't talking about
We
the
have
thing.
already said this is a St. Patrick's episode. We are not talking about the thing. We will talk about the thing tomorrow on my show, The Muddy Waters, or My Fellow Americans, and you can call in again and ask me if I was wrong again, and I will tell you I was wrong again.
Right.
Okay?
But we're not talking about the thing.
One mistake I made in being wrong was trusting government data.
It's a valid that is a valid mistake right there.
I made a mistake.
Yeah.
Made a mistake. We're not talking about the thing. Hey, Chris, thanks so much for your contribution this week. Will McElveen says, "Is Spike ever truly wrong?" No, I was right. It depends on how you weight it. So I was on. If you weight it just by individual subjects, I was mostly right. If you weight it by importance, definitely not. Definitely not. Still partially right, but just a small fraction right. Some would call that wrong. So we have one really amazing thing to end on here that is just fantastic. And
Oh, yeah.
I know I am going to let you know way more about this than me. I read about it and glanced over it, but I think you have much in the way that you have defended Joe Biden for being a Klan member in the past. I think you have a much more intimate awareness of this subject. Klan member, Joe Biden.
Yeah, that's really what you want to say about the blonde hair, blue eyed guy that is next to you.
Who's wearing a St. Patrick's shirt? Right. Yeah, no. Chris, to be clear, he didn't. I just tease him because he defended the busing thing. But go ahead. But you had a very compelling case. I get it.
I defended Joe's not supporting busing.
I get it.
Right. I defended that.
I get it.
I haven't defended Joe Biden on.
No, definitely not.
Except for the cockroach thing, because you're like, why did he call all those kids cockroaches? And I said, well, we don't know what came before that in the video. We can't really say that that's what, because he was going through a list.
Yeah, that was yeah.
It was just poor timing for him to
refer to black children as roaches. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
So on Sunday, when I was doing a lot of research for the show, as I tend to do over the weekend, that's how I spend my weekends.
That's how you spend your weekend. Yeah.
This is how I spend my weekends. You're welcome.
Yeah, thank you.
I texted Spike and I said, hey, do you want to talk about security or privacy? We have time for one, because both stories were big.
Yeah.
And neither one of them are going to pass the House this week, so we might be able to talk security next.
Yeah, I hope we get to talk about the other one because it fails. That would be nice.
Well, are they getting together?
Oh, that's right. They're not, so we can definitely talk about it.
Yeah, well, we should be able to. I mean, I'm certain
okay, cool.
There's other big stories that happen, and I just hope I remember. That's basically.
I'm gonna put a note.
Yeah, just put a note in the show notes. So a bipartisan pair of U.S. senators entered a bill disguised as a way to combat child exploitation online called the Earn It Act, which also odd thing to call a bill about child exploitation.
Oh, God.
Just tossing that out there. Like, that's a weird thing to call a bill about child exploitation.
I got to sanitize my hands after that one. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I get it.
I'm sorry.
According to U.S. Attorney General William Barr,
pictured here also thinking about meth.
Child predators communicate using virtually unbreakable encryption. The department, for one, talking about his, is prioritizing, which I guess is all of them now.
Yep.
The department, for one, is is prioritizing combating child sexual exploitation and abuse in our prosecution efforts. And we are also addressing child exploitation in our efforts on retaining lawful access. And that's a big sentence. This is a huge sentence, but that retaining lawful access, remember that. And in analyzing the impact of Section 230, also important, of the Communications Decency Act on incentives for platforms to address these crimes. That is a really long sentence, and there's a lot to break down in that sentence.
Right.
The department, child predators communicating using virtually unbreakable encryption. The department is prioritizing combating child sexual exploitation and abuse in prosecution efforts. They're going after child predators. They're going after them online. This is the statement so far. They're tired of the way that they have to go through back ends to try to get whatever information that they get.
Right.
We are addressing sexual. Nope, not even in that sentence. And we are also addressing child exploitation in our efforts on retaining lawful access to the unbreakable encryption and in analyzing the impact of Section 230 of the Communications Decency Act on incentives for platforms to address these crimes. Now, we're going to get into Section 230 in just a minute, but think about what this is saying. Think about what they want. This is the most egregious attack on end-to-end encryption possibly ever.
Yep.
Possibly ever.
This would empower government to force those who make encryptions to give them basically a key to open it whenever they want. So, for example, Apple, who is famous for refusing to de-encrypt their devices unless they're given a warrant, that would be out the window.
Right.
Retaining lawful access means being allowed to spy on even your encrypted stuff whenever they want without a warrant or for any other reason. They can just go look at it. So it's encrypted for everyone but them.
Right. So the other key portion of what William Barr said, the impact of Section 230 of the Communications Decency Act on whatever. Mm-hmm. You just need to know Section 230 of the Communications Decency Act.
Right.
Section 230 historically has given tech companies it gives them the ability to expand their platforms with minimum liability on how users use their platforms is under attack. So Facebook, Twitter, YouTube,
right,
Reddit, Snapchat, Instagram, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
They're allowed to grow at any rate. People are going to do things that are potentially illegal on their platforms, and that is not their problem. And that is not their problem.
Which is what has allowed us to have as a largely free of an experience on social media as we have had. Right. That we're not having to get government permission to talk to each other.
Mm-hmm. This is what they're going after. This is what they're attempting to change. Under Earn It, these companies, ones that I listed before, wouldn't automatically have a liability exemption for activity and content related to child sexual exploitation. This means that if you're on Instagram, because I don't think kids use Facebook anymore, Instagram or Snapchat, and none of you do this, but just this is this is more hypothetical than what we were talking about with Chris.
Right.
If somebody picks up an underage person on Instagram or Snapchat,
right,
using the platform to do it, Instagram would have to report it. because they would have to open up end-to-end, they would have to put a stop to end-to-end encryption. That means everything that you write to somebody in Messenger, everything that you write, anytime you're sending somebody a DM on any platform, it's being read by the government.
Legally. Because right now they're doing a lot of that, but it's illegal, so it can't be used in court. This would make that legal. The thing that Edward Snowden told you they were doing, this makes that legal.
Right. Now, instead, companies would have to earn the protection. Think about that. The reason it's called earn it is they earn the protection from the government by showing that they are following recommendations for combating child sexual exploitation laid out by a 16-person commission. That means that there's going to be 16 people who are saying, okay, we need this, we need this, we need this, we need this, we need this. If you don't do all of these things, you do not get the waiver of liability.
Right.
They are forcing all of these tech companies to get rid of end-to-end encryption under the oldest trope in politics of we have to think about the children.
We have to protect the children. What about the children?
What about the kids? We got to protect the kids. What about the kids?
Yep.
That is what they are doing. This bill was brought to you by Spike's own Lindsey Graham.
Lindsey Graham and Richard Blumenthal, pictured here. Richard possibly thinking about Matt. No, he's thinking about pretending, lying about being a Vietnam veteran, which is actually a violation of the Stolen Valor Act. But did you see him get prosecuted for that? No, not so much. And Lindsey is thinking about they're earning it, probably.
This bill creates a way for law enforcement officials, attorney generals, online child sexual exploitation survivors and advocates, constitutional law scholars, consumer protection and privacy specialists, cryptographers, and other tech experts to collectively decide what digital companies should do to identify and reduce child predation on their platforms, and then require the companies to do it. And if the companies don't, if the companies are like, no, we have a lot of people, the vast majority of our users, the vast majority of our users are not using this to exploit children sexually.
Right.
And
so we're not going to violate.
But we got to do this for the kids. Or anytime it does happen, you are now criminally and financially liable.
So this is worse than
This
what?
Is so much worse.
This is worse than what Edward Snowden said they're doing.
Yeah.
They're going to do it, and they're going to make the companies do it and report it to them. And again, like Matt said, whenever they introduce these new infringements on your self-ownership and your body and your rights and your life and your property, they always use stuff like, we got to protect the children. We got to stop the terrorists. We have to stop a pandemic, hypothetically. We have to stop the thing that's going to harm everybody. And if you're in the way of that, then you must want those things to happen. And no one would say, there's no one that's going to say, well, we like child predators. Any argument they make is going to be drowned out by the Karens and the soccer moms and the boomers going, but what about the children? We don't need privacy. We need to protect the children. This will get used. It's just starting with child predators. That's the camel's nose under the tent. And over time, they just keep adding to it. It'll be drugs next, and then it'll be hate speech. And of course, hate speech will continue to be, eventually hate speech will just be like, for example, Boogaloo memes. This will be, if you want to say something other than, I made a casserole today, or hey, happy birthday, if you want to say anything even the least bit controversial, this will eventually be used to justify you being harmed.
So if you were to go to the judiciary page where this bill was sitting, it's not there anymore because I believe it's been introduced, I believe last Wednesday.
Okay.
And you were just to read what it's about. The Eliminating Abusive and Rampant Neglect of Interactive Technologies Act, the EARN IT Act, would create incentives for companies to earn liability protection for violations of laws related to online child sexual abuse material. Imagine being a senator voting against this.
On an election year.
In an election year.
Yeah.
You were going to have to vote for abuse of children is how it's going to be spun.
Yep. In a bipartisan bill introduced by the exact fucking scumbags you would expect to introduce something like this.
In an election year.
In an election year. So this is getting passed. And if you think the most libertarian president of our lives is going to do a thing other than sign it happily.
He is going to sign it faster than he will stare at Ivanka's ass.
He will sign it faster.
I was not ready for that one. So
he will sign it faster than his teenage daughter's own breasts.
Right.
So this is happening.
This is happening.
This is absolutely going to happen. So that's the end of encrypted anything.
End-to-end encryption is coming to a halt.
And incidentally, guys, guess what isn't going away? Child predators and child porn. That's not going away. It's going to drive them further underground where they'll find new ways around this. It'll, I'm sure, make it harder, but they'll find ways around it because there's still a demand for it. And we should absolutely fight against child porn and child exploitation and all that stuff. Doing this doesn't do that. It drives them underground and subjects us to the rules that were supposedly made for them. That's what this does.
Now, some of the safeguards that they're talking about would likely include things like proactive dynamic content scanning to identify abusive photos and videos. This is not on your page. This is not stuff that you've put on your page. This is stuff that's in your messages.
Yep.
This is stuff that's in your private stuff.
Mm-hmm. Robots deciding if your content is potentially harmful or abusive to children.
Do you know how often on Reddit we are accused of being Russian bots? It's literally every time we post on Reddit.
Yep.
Every time. And I have to send them a message. And I'm like, hey, yeah, still not a Russian bot. And then I usually throw in a joke because I'm like, well, I've seen
Russian bots don't joke.
Yeah, Russian bots don't joke.
Beepski boopski. In Soviet Russia.
In Soviet Russia, bots don't joke.
Bots joke you.
Bots joke, yeah. They are also looking at communication surveillance to watch for predators who could be forming relationships with potential victims and grooming them for exploitation. Again, that's not something that they're doing on your page. This is something that they're doing in chats.
Yep.
If Earn It were to become law, companies will no longer be able to earn their liability. Will no longer be able to earn their liability exemption while offering end-to-end encryption to everybody here.
Right.
Now, we already know, like on Facebook, you know that your messages are being read. That got broken last year or the year before.
Yep.
You know that that's happening. And since it's happening on Facebook, you can assume it's happening on Instagram. On Snapchat, there is a way to get there through your phone. I don't know if anybody has access to it anywhere else. I haven't really heard anything. Twitter, I've never heard anything bad about. Reddit, I've never really heard anything bad about when it comes to the private messaging. All of that ends. Everybody starts listening. Every single person begins to listen. And not only that, but it opens it up to hackers. It opens it up to people who are trying to get information on you. It opens you up to crazy exes who somehow figure out how to get in. All of this is not only possible, but it is the future if this bill passes.
Yep.
Which it will. In an election.
Yeah, no, it's going to get passed. This is going to get passed.
Vote against a bill that is meant to help child exploitation. Help in child exploitation. Not help it. Don't boost it.
The only hope we have, if this isn't scary enough, the only hope we have here is that something just shuts down the government for a long period of time.
But so this would put, like we said, either you undermine the protection of end-to-end encryption by adding a backdoor for law enforcement access, or avoid end-to-end encryption altogether. That's it. That's it.
And that's what they're pushing for, is an end to that. Yeah. And if you think it's going to stop with social media providers, it'll be Apple, it'll be everyone. Like this is a full-scale assault on the
God, could you imagine that they start suing Apple because somebody texted on an iPhone?
That's exactly what they're going to do.
Right. Yeah, no, you're right. I didn't even consider that when I was doing this because I was absolutely flabbergasted reading all about it.
Yeah, this is one of the worst things that we could possibly be facing. I mean, this is terrible. Like, it's funny, it's like how we were talking about the Federal Reserve story before, and everyone focuses on the endless printing of the money.
Right.
The fractional reserve thing doesn't get as much attention because it doesn't sound as sexy. It's the fractional reserve part that's the worst part.
Right.
Completely eliminating the reserve requirement is way, way, way worse. A run on the banks is coming because of that. This is a similar situation where this doesn't sound as, much of an infringement as, for example, shooting someone in their sleep. It's way worse. It will lead to more of that. It will give another justification for that kind of stuff. And it's not good.
So while arguing for and against this, law enforcement and Congress members have stated tech companies can't do enough to stop child predation and distribution of illegal content on their platforms if they can't access their users' data.
Right.
This is a violation of the First, the Fourth, and the Fifth. Which, if you go back an hour and a half or however long ago to our good buddy Duncan.
Mm-hmm.
Duncan. To our good buddy Duncan. He was the first, second, fourth, and fifth.
Yep, he certainly was. Why is that happening?
They're working on ending end-to-end encryption, which, if you want to have fun, read that sentence like 4 times fast. It's ending end-to-end encryption.
Ending end-to-end encryption.
Yeah, that's difficult.
That is difficult.
That's why I kept using it without banning it. They don't want to legally ban it because they can't, but they can force companies to ban it.
Right.
By opening them up to criminal and other sorts of litigation against them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, it's why are you doing this?
Why? Now, companies...
Having a bit of an issue. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, okay. Companies are going to be forced to bring it to an end or open themselves up for consequences if illegal activity happens on their site.
Yep.
Now, Section 230 states that can't happen. They are working to get rid of it.
God.
But this has happened before with Silk Road.
That's correct. It sure
with
did.
Ross Ulbricht. I don't know how to pronounce it.
Ulbricht, yeah. I think it's Ulbricht, yeah.
Okay. With Ross Ulbricht, who started a website, Silk Roads, and then a bunch of illegal stuff happened on there.
Yep.
Granted, and...
Which he didn't do.
He didn't do. He didn't.
But
do
he got
any of it.
charged for all of those things.
He got charged for all of it. And I think he's doing something like at least 2 life sentences. I think it's more.
Oh, it would be, yeah. He's going to spend the rest of it until Vermin Supreme and I become president and appoint him the head of commerce. He will definitely be spending the rest of his life in prison. Right. And there is no political momentum to change that in either the Republican or Democratic parties at all whatsoever. No.
Everything about this bill, minus the fact that they're trying to bring an end to sexual exploitation of children,
which it won't do.
Which it won't do. Which it will not do.
Yeah, it won't do.
Which it will not do
that. No.
There's so many. You've got the dark web. You've got other areas that aren't technically social media that you can still do all of this on. You can message people through DirecTV. Did you know that? I found that out. Yeah, you can.
Through DirecTV?
Through DirecTV, you can send messages.
Well, that's interesting.
Right.
Breaking news. You can message people on DirecTV. I had no idea. Right. I had no idea.
There's going to be so many different ways, and they will work to find a way to still do that.
Like, for example, Westmore Holmes says, what about the child predators in D.C. like those in Epstein's Black Book? Exactly.
No social media needed.
None needed.
None needed.
None needed. And even if they were using it and were being tracked on doing it, in the same way that Andrew Gillum got to go home when they found him with meth and an overdosing escort with no charges, that's how they'll be treated.
Yep.
You and I, when we do something that has absolutely nothing to do with child predation, but, sets off some bot, are going to face trouble and have to defend ourselves against that, even though it had nothing to do with child predator. But a bot set it off. It set a bot off somehow, and now we're facing trouble from that on something that should have been completely private, and there is no victim.
Now, I don't know how a lot of you are out there because I've never met you in person. I'm guessing if you're watching this show, you have a twisted sense of humor.
You should.
Yeah, I really hope you do. Think about some of the stuff you have said as a joke in any sort of social media message to somebody.
Yeah.
It is
think of your jokes.
Think of the jokes that you tell people, because the jokes I tell people, I don't know if they would hit me on this, but they could hit me on a bunch of other stuff.
Yeah. On this stuff, absolutely not. But I mean, in general, people tell stupid, terrible, terrible jokes. And it's one thing if it gets released and you get dragged on Twitter or whatever. This is prosecution. This is robots stopping your ability to communicate with others until the police can look into and see if you did something wrong on private messaging. This is tone policing on 1984 levels. This is people who are scared to say something privately to someone else, which means they become internally policing on what they even think. And so you're constantly filtering through your thoughts and words before you even say them as to whether it could set some bot off. This is scary stuff.
This is very, very scary stuff.
This is very scary stuff. This will last a lot longer than the thing we're not talking about.
Oh, yeah. If this passes, this is forever.
Yep.
This is until the internet dies. And I want you to think about that for a second.
Yeah. No, this is absolutely terrible.
Quite literally, I don't know if we have ever said this on this show. I do not know. I have been on, this is episode 135.
Yeah.
135 of the show. I have done 134 of these episodes.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know we've ever said this on this show. But if you're ever thinking about calling a senator to tell them to vote no or yes on a bill, call them and tell them to vote no on this. Tell them to vote no on Earn It.
This would be the one.
This is the one. This will forever end your online privacy. Everything that you send to people in DMs. Think about every single dick pic, every single nude that you've received, or vice versa, depending on
solicited ones.
Solicited.
We're not talking stalking women. We're talking like legit stuff. Online, by the way, means your text messaging. It eventually will mean your phone calls. An increasing percentage of voice communication between people is not by telephone. It's by voice messages and voice calling and video calling on these apps. All of that goes out the window because it's being actively scanned by layers of robots who then snitch on you. We're seeing with this act called Kava, which was supposed to protect children, where it makes it so that you can't run ads that are not children themed if a robot decides that your video on YouTube or whatever else is geared primarily towards children. That includes bright colors, pastels, things that look like drawings and cartoons, things that look like toys, things that look like fluffy animals. There's this whole host of things that look like clowns. So basically, if you do anything that's a little bright, it might set off a bot. These shirts being bright green might set off a bot. So we already know these bots aren't working right and are bound to cause problems, which, if the worst thing they can do is temporarily take your video down or not let you get advertising until you appeal it or whatever, it's still bad, but it's not as bad as the police getting involved. Not on a public video or a public post, but on a private message. God forbid you're video messaging someone and your kid your toddler gets out of the shower or something and walks into the room and there's briefly a naked toddler in your video and the police get called in and maybe you lose your kids.
Which I just want to point out. One, I am working very hard to never have this happen. But recently, my girlfriend and I, we've been able to hang out a lot more. And she has 2 kids. Mm-hmm. They really enjoy naked time.
They're kids.
Which apparently could just be any time. I was unaware of this.
They're kids.
Having no kids, they just,
they're
naked
kids.
time.
They're kids.
And, yeah, they're kids.
Yeah, they're kids.
If I'm talking to somebody, or God forbid I'm doing this, and one of them happens to be here and awake and runs in,
it's too late to do anything about it. The bot already saw it, and now you have to deal with the authorities.
Right.
This is horrific, and that's who it will affect. Not child predators who are always looking for new and innovative ways to continue predating children.
Right.
They will get around this before it even passes.
It is going to affect the Duncan Lemps of this world.
Yep. It'll affect all of us. This is an absolutely, absolutely terrible thing. If you ever even considered contacting your senator, go ahead and do it now. This would be the reason. This is a bad one.
This one is awful.
So we could say this is awful for another 40 minutes, but I prefer to focus now on how we're going to fix this. And that is with electing Vermin Supreme and I to the President and Vice President of the United States of America. And to that end, we've had some pretty big updates this past week. We officially won the Massachusetts primary. Vermin Supreme won the Massachusetts primary. Very, very hotly contested primary. He won that. Now that was close. If you look there, Jacob Hornberger, Dan Berman, Kim Ruff, who has been out of the race for 2 months, was on there. It was close. It was a close race, but he still won it. Here's a race that wasn't close. After an absolutely masterful debate, and yes, I know that's funny, but there's no other word to describe it. After an absolutely fantastic debate performance that completely switched the crowd around at the Libertarian Party of Illinois' convention from being decidedly anti-vermin to being decidedly pro-vermin, Vermin Supreme won the official Illinois straw poll with more votes than every other candidate combined in what was essentially hostile territory. He did so well that they actually had to ask people to stop leaving negative comments who weren't even there, because people were getting so angry that were not his supporters, obviously, that he just completely wrecked the show with his and it was on the strength of just an absolutely astounding debate performance. So we definitely have momentum when it comes to that. So that's 2 victories there. I also had an astounding debate performance, and by astounding I mean that I didn't even know I was going to be participating. So I got to be in a debate where previously, if you look at this, about 15 minutes prior to this, I was on the floor spooning my dog Axel when I was called by Vermin Supreme and informed that I would be engaging in a debate, or asking if I could engage in a debate, because his computer wasn't working and he couldn't get it to work. So he couldn't get online. And so I immediately went to my computer and logged in. I mean, you can see I'm wearing the shirt I was going to bed in. Like, I was falling asleep before I got called. I had absolutely no idea what we were even talking about. I had no idea what the questions were. And I went in, and I think Adam Kokesh sure liked it. I think that I did pretty well for myself in my first, possibly only, presidential debate that I'll ever be participating in. Some would say not my only. I would say... Go ahead.
I did not watch all of that debate.
Well, it's 2 hours long, so...
Right. I only watched what you sent me and told me to watch. Yeah, no, you did. You were you. Which, you were you. So, obviously, you did great.
Oh, thanks. That means a lot.
You're welcome.
I had no idea what they were going to ask me.
I am willing to make an endorsement of Spike Cohen for VP after seeing the 5 minutes of that I watched.
Thank you. That's all you need to see. It was like 2 hours long. I did my best. I had no idea what the questions were. And they were like technology-related questions, which I have opinions on that. But if I had known, I didn't even know who was hosting it. I was given a code to log into a Skype session. And so it turns out it was hosted by Det Nation and the Transhumanist Party of the United States. Well, if I had known it was a transhumanist thing, I would have talked about the human struggle to end senescence and bring about immortality in our time. I would have talked about eliminating disease, using technology to bring the humankind to new and amazing frontiers. Coming about the singularity in our era and our generation, being able to potentially live, if not immortally, then for extremely extended periods of time by figuring out how to make cells never become senescent. I have like really strong opinions about that stuff. I had no clue what I was going on. I was told it had something to do with blockchain or something. So I did my best. I got a lot of thumbs up and claps. I got a lot of laughs. I gave my 10-point plan. They seemed to like that. I potentially will be in a future discussion with some other transhumanists. I think it's a great... I love the transhumanists. I consider myself not necessarily a transhumanist, but I'm definitely a futurist. I think when you have an incurable disease, you learn to look to the future that can potentially end it, and that has definitely pushed me to futurism and the amazing possibilities that are potentially just a few years away. But so I think I did a good job with that, and we had a really great week for the campaign. It's looking like there aren't going to be any more conventions for us to attend, so we're going to be on a completely online-only campaign between now and the convention, which may or may not happen.
You and Vermin are going to be on an online only, huh?
Yeah, which is our wheelhouse.
Yeah, I was going to say that's so dangerous for everybody.
Not only are Vermin and I going to only be online, everyone's going to be only online. So a lot of people that were relying on the strategy of going into rooms filled with dozens of libertarians at a time, who now have to campaign on a meta scale across the world to show just how much of a reach we have on social media and on the internet, this suddenly became a completely different race. One which really, really, really benefits us. Oh, yeah. And if you watch, go Google how Joe Biden's first online rally went.
Oh, God, that was so embarrassing. That was so awkward. imagine, I don't know how old you are. I don't know how old all of you are, but
Right.
imagine your 78-year-old dad slash grandpa, great grandpa for some of you, I'm not 100% sure,
Right.
is trying to figure out his own live stream.
How to use Zoom.
Was it Zoom?
It was Zoom. And the other people that were supposed to be directing it had no clue how to use it either. They were figuring it out on the spot. Remember
My
that
favorite
very
part
brief
was, am I on camera?
Yeah.
Am I on camera?
Yep.
That was my favorite part of that entire.
It seemed like no one had their Ethernet cord plugged in because there was a lot of like skipping and interruption and stuff like that. Remember, if any of you who are ride or dies that watched the entire show saw the first few minutes of this episode where we realized that Matt's audio wasn't working and so I turned it on. That was a awkward moment that lasted about 30 seconds. It felt like 5 minutes to me, but it was probably about 30 seconds of me figuring out why he wasn't live, why his audio wasn't working. Imagine a rally from a man who's probably going to get more votes for president than anyone else being like that for the entire hour. Not just for audio, for everything. Am I on camera? What's going on here? Hey, roaches. This is how that went. We have a potential to show up the two main, not just our libertarian and third-party competitors, but to show up everyone else on the internet as being the most technologically adept and social media engaged campaign running for president and vice president in the United States. More than Biden, more than Bernie, more than Trump, more than anyone else running. This campaign, because of the thing that we can't talk about and are not going to talk about, just completely changed the game for Vermin and I, and for more importantly, for the Libertarian Party, if they see this for the opportunity that it is. This potentially becomes a competitive three-way race between two sets of boomers who have no clue what they're doing on the internet and their hapless aides that are only there because they're getting paid, and me and Vermin Supreme, who are literal memes on the internet.
That's true. We are one big meme on this show.
Like, when I made this is serious now. The badger could potentially be in the common lexicon this summer.
So here's my question.
Okay.
It's tradition for the president to get a dog, like you've seen it, like forever.
Yeah. Well, Trump didn't, but he like broke this long tradition. Yeah.
Would Vermin get a badger?
Yes. If I have to get it for him, yes.
I think that would be so funny.
His badger, Vermin and his pet badger.
Yeah.
Whose name is Badger.
Right. Yeah. It's a picture of a badger.
It's just a picture of it's literally, no, but it would be an actual badger. And he would hold it. And when asked about it, he would say, it's literally just a badger. America, this has to happen. If you are a Libertarian Party delegate or a Libertarian Party national committee person or you're going to be one of the people voting, one of those 1,046 or whatever people voting. I need you to consider, go look at Vermin and my social media. Go look at our presence on the internet and realize that you could have that up against the two biggest and most hapless schmucks to run for president in quite some time, who clearly have no idea what they're doing.
Not the most hated, because that was 2016.
Yeah, no. The most hated already happened.
Yeah, that one.
Although after this thing that we're not talking about, Trump might be the most hated, but we'll see. Regardless, there's going to be a lot of discontent with both choices on a campaign that is more than likely going to be almost entirely online. It's going to look like this because you can't get together with more than like 5 people. We can just as easily, chroma key a fake audience behind us as they can. That's what we're facing. We can actually win this. We could actually win this or do astoundingly better than anyone else, simply on the weight of our being more entertaining at a time when people are absolutely desperate for a break from the terrible news that both parties are giving them. And we give them a respite and a hopeful message that self-ownership and non-aggression and voluntary solutions and removing the violent monopoly from all of us that has imposed these problems, including the big one that we're not talking about, on all of us, is a real possibility with a vote for us. And they're never going to hear that message if they're not entertained by it and it's not in front of them. Look at who has the best social media game of any of the candidates running. It's not even close. We are comparable to Biden and Trump. It's not even close. So I leave you with that.
Yep.
And by that, I mean I'm leaving. No, I'm not leaving.
But we are.
We are actually leaving, though.
We are actually leaving.
So I don't know how St. Patrick's Day really works because I was never a big drinker. Matt, is there are we supposed to do like a wish or a
I don't know. I used to just get drunk.
Drunk, right? Yeah, like we used to. I used to just. Well, I've never done anything.
I used to get
illegal.
drunk and listen to a lot of Dropkick Murphys.
I was just gonna the Dropkick Murphys.
That was it.
Okay, well then we leave you with a song that is, I guess, similar to probably not really. No, it's not. It's not even remotely like one. But anyway, guys, have a great St. Patrick's Day. Vote for Vermin Supreme and Spike Cohen. Give us money on PayPal Muddy Waters of Freedom at gmail.com or Anchor by going to anchor.fm/muddywatersmedia or by going to float.app/muddywatersmedia and pressing the donate if you want to get some of that crypto out there. Some of that crypto you've been holding on to. But Matt, so go ahead. Oh, and tomorrow, tune in to My Fellow Americans. That's my show, where I will be having Jordan Logue. I think that's how you say it's that last name. Jordan Logue? Logie? From Fakertarians. He is a scientist. And we're going to be talking about science things, including climate change, the war on drugs and how stupid it is, and specific examples of why it's stupid from a scientific. We're going to prove it with science. These things are stupid, and we're going to prove it with science. And then we're also going to talk about the thing that we're not talking about tonight.
Right. Because you need a break.
You need a break.
Everybody needs a break.
You needed a break. A nice St. Patrick's break from the thing.
On a night
so Matt,
you're not allowed to go out and drink because all the bars are closed.
Nope, but you can drink at home.
Right.
So enjoy that. Matt, if someone
Irishman.
like a real drunk, you can just drink at home.
Right.
And then talk to people on the internet. Get drunk and then call people. What could possibly go wrong? Nothing could ever go wrong, especially once they end encryption. Matt, if someone were to look for us on this internet, which is the only way that anyone can look for anyone anymore for quite a period of time, how would they even do that?
You can find us on Facebook at facebook.com/muddiedwatersmedia. You can find us on Twitter at twitter.com/muddied_waters. You can find us on Float, the greatest social media experience out there.
Yes.
At float, flote.app/muddiedwatersmedia. On Anchor, you can find us on Anchor at anchor.fm/muddiedwaters. On YouTube, youtube.com/muddiedwatersmedia. And if you're just perusing the old gram, you can find us at Muddied Waters Media, and you can find this and every other episode at muddiedwatersmedia.com.
muddywatersmedia.com, taking over the world. Guys, have a great rest of your evening, your St. Patrick's Day. I will see you tomorrow, and then we will see you next week. And where we're going,
we don't need roads,
which makes things harder to spread because there's no roads.
Oh, how I love when I slow down. Forget myself when I go round. I lost my feet, said I love you. Too bad that dreams don't just come true. Staying put, not making sense. Yeah, I've been living in the previous tense. Why won't you help me move on? I can't look, can't make amends. Yeah, it's so sad we're not even friends, but we've been going so long. Give me back the conversation. I'm sorry I lost my patience. No, I just can't catch a break. Yeah, I'm always late, yet still always waiting. Oh, how I love when I slow down. Forget myself when I go around. I lost my feet, said I love you. Too bad that dreams don't just come true. Kicking it in my banana pants, having fun hitting that bananagram. I love just wasting my time. Wasting my time, oh my gosh. Hating it, checking my Instagram. No, it won't turn me to a better man. I know it's killing my vibe. Who am I to you? My words just seem inefficient. I'm scared of the recognition. I'm sorry, it's you I'm missing. To tell the truth, I can't make it different. Oh, how I love when I slow down. Forget myself when I go around. I lost my feet, said I love you. Too bad that dreams don't just come true. Suddenly I can see the world as it's supposed to be, and the pain inside my heart has left my chest. Honestly, we can be anyone we wanna be, and the world can put our worry down to rest. But I can't find another broken light to brighten my life up. No, I can't hold another broken soul to know it's over. No, it's not over.
You are so cool.
Yeah. Oh, how I love when I slow down. Forget myself when I go around. I lost my feet, said I love you.